You're listening to the Reality of It All podcast, candid conversations about today's hot topics. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am so excited about today's guest. I saw her story in a podcast guest group on Facebook. Like October, November, something like that of last year. And I have just been super, super geeked to talk with her and have a conversation. And the reason is because my guest today is Michelle Petties, and she has transformed herself. She has gained and lost over 700 pounds in her journey, and she finally figured it out. And, if you've been listening to me on either The Reality of It All or over on my other podcast, Releasing Trauma, you know that weight loss and my weight is something that I've struggled with for a million years. So I am so excited to hear her story and to learn how she finally figured it out, and maybe we can figure it out too. So Michelle, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here, Tracy. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm super geeked, especially this time of year with it being late January when we're recording. This is the time of year everybody's like, oh, new year, new you. I'm going to do it. This is my year. This is the year I'm finally going to lose weight, blah, 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 blah. And, by the end of January, we're all back to our old eating patterns, myself included. So this is, I think this is a very timely conversation, but it's just also a very much needed conversation. So I want to, I really kind of just want to start off with, tell us about your story and your journey with this, being able to gain and lose so much.
Yeah. So here's how the journey began, if you will. But in my 20s, I forget now if I was 27 or 28, 29, somewhere around in there, I was diagnosed for the first time, and I saw it on paper as being morbidly obese. And I remember seeing it on paper. I was 217 pounds. And 6 months later, I was 160 pounds. I went to this diet doctor, took the diet pills, went on this very low calorie diet, went to the weekly group meetings that they had, to try to, get your mindset around it. But I went to the group meetings so I could get the pills. I went to the group meetings so I could get the pills, so I could get the appetite suppressant so I could stick to the diet. And thus began the cycle. And I went through that in various forms from my 20s until my 60s. And I would lose 50 pounds and I'd gain 60. I'd lose 60 and I'd gain 70, right? Yep. And when I got to the other side of this, Tracy, so many different light bulbs went off in my head. And one of the light bulbs that went off in my head was I would lose that weight and gain it back because in my mind, even though I might have gotten down to a 14, which I call a Black woman's 10, but even though I'd gotten down to a size 14, in my head, I was still a size 24. In my head, I was a size 22. So I hadn't connected, even when I hadn't connected with the mental shifts that I needed to make to maintain the weight. And the mental shifts, they're tricky because we hear so much about emotional eating. People say I'm an emotional eater all the time, right? They say I'm a stress eater all the time. And I have gotten to the place, or I got to the point where I said, okay, what does that mean? I'm an emotional eater. And I want to ask you, an emotional eater, what does that mean to you? That you're an emotional eater?
For me, it means I turn to food. I turn to food for whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad, whether I'm angry, whether I'm hurt. I turn to food for comfort.
Okay. So when that happens, do you say, I'm angry, I'm going to eat?
Sometimes.
Do you?
I have actually done that. I've even gone so far as to, that person really pissed me off, I'm going to show them, I'm going to go eat. Literally have said that to myself.
You have said that.
I have literally said that to myself. And then I look at myself and I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
But yeah,
yes.
I've done it.
Yes. And so, I'm happy to hear you say that, because all of the time it doesn't show up like that.
Yeah.
What it shows up is it shows up as this thing in our stomach, and we think it's hunger, but it's a reaction to some external circumstance. And I got some clarity around that when I started asking myself 3 questions, right? 3 questions before. And I do it now. I did it when I first lost the weight and learned to keep it off. 3 questions. Am I hungry or am I something else? That's the first question. Am I hungry or am I something else? If this food will not get me to the body that I say that I want, why am I eating it? And that question right there, if this food will not get me to the body that I say that I want, why am I eating it? That really kind of opened up the clouds for me, and allowed things to shift. And the third question was, why this food now? Why this particular food? Why this particular food now? And just stopping to ask myself those questions allowed me to start breaking the pattern of just eating, because I got real clear that I was in the state that I was in, and I stayed in that state, and I came back to that state because I was eating too much of the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and I was oftentimes doing it unconsciously. And what my book is about, the story, Leaving Larger Stories of a Food Addict, is going back to, just like like the other guests we were talking about, Leslie, going back to what you believe, going back to your family situations, what you believe about food. And when you stop and ask those questions, it allows you to break the pattern, right? It allows you to realize what you're doing. And for me, and I believe I'm a microcosm of everything else, is that once you understand or get to the consciousness part, once you realize what you're doing, and once you deal with the reason, it makes it easier to deal with the what am I eating and how much of it am I eating. So many times it's you just deal with the what am I eating and the how much, and you're fighting it because you haven't dealt with these unconscious beliefs that you have about food. And the way that came up, and the way that I got really crystal clear about, it was my belief about certain foods, and all of our beliefs about certain foods that drive us to either eat them in one way or another, was this story. And it's the first story in my book. Years ago, and I'm from the South, if you can't tell by my accent, I'm from the South. I'm from a small country town, farming town in Texas. And I was hanging out with my uncle. We were having a barbecue cookout on his farm, and we had watermelon. Black folks and watermelon, who knew? But that's what we had, right? So I was like, Billy, you want some of this watermelon? And he's like, no, I don't eat watermelon. Now listen, Tracy, he said to me, I don't eat watermelon. He didn't say I don't like it. He didn't say I don't want it. He said I don't eat it. And that was odd. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I mean, you grow it right here on your farm. It's good, it's juicy. Everybody's eating it. Why don't you want some? And he was like, I don't eat it. You got to have a reason, right? You have to tell me what the reason is, right? My uncle at this point was 70-ish. He was over 70. And he finally relented and told me that when he was a kid, maybe 7 years old or so, he and some buddies, now this is 1930s, right? He and some buddies stole a watermelon from a neighbor's garden. And his father, who was my grandfather, found out about it. 2 things about my grandfather. Yes. That look, yes. My grandfather was a church trustee, and my grandfather was a railroad worker.
Oh. I bet your grandpa couldn't sit down for a very long time.
Yeah. So for real, Tracy, the one person that a 7-year-old that just stole a watermelon doesn't want to meet is a church trustee who's a railroad worker.
Right.
So my grandfather proceeded to beat him severely, so severely that he never ate watermelon again.
Oh, wow.
He never had it. That happened when he was 6 or 7 years old. I'm talking to my uncle when he's in his mid-70s.
Yep.
And he said, I don't eat watermelon. So after he told me the story and I let it just settle over me, I said, well, Billy, do you think maybe the lesson was supposed to be thou shalt not steal? My uncle looked at me dead in my eyes and said, I don't eat watermelon. Now, right. So now when he told me that story in the 1990s, the importance of it didn't show up for me. It didn't show up for me until I started really trying to figure out what my battle was all about. And I had gone to a doctor and I'd gotten on a program and I had said, I can't continue to do this. I am missing something. What am I missing? Because God, I cannot continue to go through this. Help me. And Tracy, that story bubbled up in my consciousness. And when that story came up, I said, oh my God, that's it. If my uncle could not eat that food for 70 plus years because of the trauma, because of the pain, because of the memory, because of what he associated with it, because of what he believed about it, then the opposite must be true about other foods, about the things that we have cravings for, about sweets, about pies, about macaroni and cheese, about fried chicken, about all of these things that we lose control over. It is because the memories that we associate with these foods are so strong, we think we want the food. But what we want is the feeling that the food evokes. And when I started to go back through my memory bank, right, that story came up, and then all kinds of other stories started to come up. And I was like, oh my God, that's what the cinnamon rolls were about. Oh my gosh, that's what the ice cream was about. And as I started to unpeel the stories, I figured out how to separate the feeling that I wanted to have from the story. So I could just let the memory roll over me and let the memory wash over me and understand it was the memory that I wanted and not the food. And when I started to separate food from feeling, that's when I got freedom. That's when I got free, when I got really clear on this, that the only problem that food will solve is hunger. And if hunger is not the problem, then food is not the answer. And so I started to teach myself through those questions that I told you about. Am I feeling real hunger right now? Is this really hunger, or is this something else that's showing up and pretending like it's hunger? What is it? And to who just walked in the room? Who did I just have a conversation with? What did I just think about? What was that? And people say all the time, Tracy, my relationship with food, because they associate food with these feelings. I'm here to say the thing that I got clear on is that I don't have a relationship with food. That's not what we need to heal. What we do is we manage food. We manage food, and we have a relationship with ourselves, and we have relationships with other people. And it is because we have attached these super qualities, these superpower qualities, these super emotional feeling qualities to food that it cannot ever do. That's where the obesity comes in. That's where the overweight thing comes in, because we keep looking for food to do something that it cannot. We keep looking for food to cure us of loneliness. We keep treating food as an activity. We keep treating food as entertainment. We keep using food when we're angry, when we're sad, when we're frustrated, right? That's all stuff that we get from people. We get that from being in relationship with people. And so when we move the plates aside and start being vulnerable, right? And so when I'm sad, instead of going for ice cream, right? When I'm lonely, instead of going to ice cream, I call somebody. I'll call a friend. I let them, I don't necessarily have to say I'm lonely. I can just say, hey girl, what are you up to? Right. And let that fill me up, because I can't eat enough ice cream. I can't eat enough cookies. I can't eat enough donuts. I can't eat enough of any of that, right? To feel some sort of emotional place that needs healing. But first, we have to identify the emotional place that needs healing, and it's associated with the food that we reach out for.
I'm blown away right now. I'm sure you can see it in my face. I am just blown away. First of all, that saying, I had to go write it down. That saying that you just said, if hunger is not the problem, then food is not the solution. I am typing that sucker up and I am putting it in my kitchen. Because
right.
That just was just kind of like, hello.
Yeah.
That was just like, kind of one of those wake up moments for me. But I don't even know where to go here, because I got so much going through my head. But for me personally, I have figured out that I tie food to abandonment issues. My food started when I was, my earliest memories started about age 5. After my parents got divorced, I got sent to live with my grandma because my mom couldn't do it as a single mom. And I felt abandoned. I was like, where did my dad go? Why didn't my dad want me? Why am I here with grandma instead of with my dad, since mom couldn't do it? And so my earliest memories of sneaking food was at age 5. And like I was saying in another podcast interview, my grandma had those old cookie tins, the metal ones. And I got very, very good at age 5, getting in and out of that thing without making a sound. And in doing some of my own self-work, I figured out that was where my earliest memories were or came from, and that food won't abandon me.
Oh, Tracy. So I got a chill. I got a chill here. I got a chill here in your story. And I grew up with my grandparents too. And my mother, I knew my mother, but at the point that she had me, she wasn't able to take care of me. So my grandparents raised me. And there's a story that I write about in the book called The Cake is in the Mail. And it's about how she would send cakes to us for Christmas time during the holidays. And I would eat all of the cake because it was her. Right. And I write another story of when she would come to visit, we would go to this donut shop. And it would I had brothers and sisters, but this was this thing that we would do together. We would go to the fabric store, and the donut shop was right next to the fabric store. And I talk about how when she would leave, I would go to that donut shop by myself and just have the donuts because of that. Right. And so I'm still getting chills because it is so real. Yeah. And one of the things that I write about is, I think I write, did my sugar addiction begin here, or was it this memory was just so sweet that I kept tying it to the association. And when I got past that and I figured that out, when I even go home now, that donut shop is still there, right? That is, and in the old days, when I was a kid, I would go and even any other kind of donuts too, because I was a sugar addict, go after them. But now, when I pass by it, I can just pass by that donut shop and let the memory wash over me, and I don't even want the donut, because here's what I know: it will never taste as good as it did on the days when I was there with my mother. So I just want to have the memory and let that wash over me. And so getting to the place that you just talked about with those cookies, I did the same thing. I mean, it's like, because what it is that all of us have these situations where we are uncomfortable, where it's this cloud of pain, or this dull ache of discomfort just settles on us. And we walk around with it. If we have unresolved stress, unresolved issues, we just have this layer of discomfort, of displeasure, or just feeling off that just is always with us. But when we eat something pleasurable, right? When we eat something sweet, when we eat something that we like, it masks that. It covers that discomfort. It gives us some pleasure. And if you're always dealing with microaggressions all day long, you're always dealing with things that disrupt your day, you're always dealing with things that just jack you up, right? Then if you haven't found positive ways to cope with it or recognize it, you think it's hunger. I remember it now. We used to, when we were working, pre-COVID, all the vending machines at work, right? Some client would call me messed up about something, or I have some sort of problem that I need to navigate through, kind of take a little extra time to figure out. Go to the vending machine, get a couple bag of Doritos and come back to my desk. I'm not hungry, but I'm trying to do something to help me work through the frustration of this problem. So, but it shows up as hungry. Oh, I think I'll get some snacks, but that's not what it is. And what ends up happening is that when we use food as a buffer to cover up the stress, to cover up the pain, to mask that delays us in actually dealing with it. And when we get delayed in dealing with it, it keeps us stuck in that place because we're not dealing with the issue. We're covering up the issue with the food. So, you get a momentary, the momentary taste of, key lime pie, which used to be my favorite. I still like it. I just don't eat it. Right. Then now everything is all sweet and good. Right. Everything you've forgotten about the fact that you have a problem, but the problem is still there. And you ultimately have to deal with it. And so the big thing that using food as a crutch does, I see in my estimation, and how we are robbed because of it, is I read this and I believe this. I read it, I heard it, I went to a seminar, somebody said it, and I know it's true, that our greatest gifts to the world, our greatest gift, our greatest contribution is rooted in our pain. That's where we have the opportunity to really make change, is identifying what our pain is and working through it and then sharing it with others. But if we use food to cover it, if we use food to mask it, we never get a chance to experience that which could be our greatest gift, because we never feel it. We never allow ourselves to deal with it because we're covering it up with food. And that's how we get robbed. That's how we get robbed of relationships. I just, being on the other side of this and just being real clear that the only purpose of food is nutrition and nourishment. Everything else we need to get from people, everything else. So it's just this crystal clarity around not eating for entertainment, right? Cook a meal. Cook a meal, feed your family. Feed your family a very good meal. Then turn on Netflix and pop some popcorn. Everybody's going to eat popcorn. Nobody's hungry because you just ate. But the popcorn is associated with the entertainment, right? Yep. So we have all this stuff that happens to us because society and culture keeps food at the center of everything. And the food manufacturers are going to work to keep it there. We have to be vigilant about our own health, about our own bodies, about our own lives. We have to do that work ourselves to protect our own psyche and just be real clear. Is this nutritious? Is it nourishing? Then why am I eating it? Because everything else, joy, entertainment, consolation, freedom from boredom, all of that comes from the relationships that we have outside of ourselves and with ourselves.
I am like fighting back tears right now. Seriously, gosh, this has been absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm sitting here thinking that for me, when I eat the junk food, I don't even taste it. I might taste like the first bite or two. After that, I don't taste it. It doesn't bring me joy. It doesn't bring me comfort. It actually has the opposite effect, because then I start beating myself up. Why did I just eat that? Now I feel sick. I'm trying to lose weight. Now I just blew my diet, all of that. So it brings up the shame and the guilt. And it has the opposite effect of what I was actually going for to begin with, which was the comfort.
It's actually discomfort food, not comfort food.
Yeah, it really is. But yet I do it anyway.
Yeah. but you have, Tracy, you have made the first step, is you have identified it. And see, the thing is, once you identify it, and here's what I teach people, you have to have something else to replace it. It's called an intentional substitution, right? An intentional substitution. So it's hard for people to give up certain habits, certain beliefs around things, because they if I give this up, if I release this, then what will I have? So the first thing is we've got to get real clear on the what it is that we want, right? So if you have what I call a bride story, if you have a clear, convincing, compelling, creative, powerful result of the thing that you want this on the side, something that's more powerful than the plate, right? See, we get stuck and we think that taste is the only way that we can enjoy food. It is not. We think that taste is the only sense that we have to enjoy this world. It is not. I know tons of people that say, I love the smell of coffee, but I don't drink it. I don't like the way it tastes, but I love the way that it smells, right? Right? So, some of the food, you go to bakeries and the food is just beautiful. It's just all so colorful. It's the macaroons, it's gelato. You go to a gelato thing. It's it's beautiful. You don't have to eat it. You can just look at it and say, oh my God, what wonderful colors. Right? We just finished trying to sell a house. Bake some cookies, bake some cookies and let the aroma run through the house, right? So you can, just because the food is on the table doesn't mean that we have to eat it. But sometimes we have these stories that say, if somebody offers you something, you want to be grateful, you want to be respectful. You want to be appreciative. You want to honor their work. And so you want to take it and you want to eat, especially if somebody's giving you something in love. You feel like you need to eat it, whether you're hungry or not. I call it grateful eating, right? Yeah. But that's an emotion that's an emotion that is really tied to so many eating habits, eating out of gratitude, right? Eating out of pleasure, not these, we get comfort all the time, but there's this grateful thing, or eating out of jealousy. You see somebody else eating something, looks real good. Oh, what's that? Can I have some of that? Right? They're having some pleasure that you don't have. So that's why we have to stop and examine and evaluate everything that we put in our mouth. Is it nutritious? Is it nourishing? Is it going to serve me? Is it going to get me to where I want to go? Then I can stop it right now, because where I want to go, if I have created this beautiful picture that's more important than the food, a body that's more important than the food, a medicine cabinet that doesn't have medicine in it, not having high blood pressure, not having high diabetes, not being pre-diabetic, being able to cross your legs, being able to get in the airline seat, being able to go up the stairs without going out of breath, all of those, being proud to look in the mirror. All of those things combined become more important than the taste of some French fries.
Wow. One more thing I want to touch on before we wrap up here is you had said, you have to replace that feeling with something. And, one of the things that brings up for me is I have been overweight for 20 years. I've been battling my weight my whole life. I don't know who I am without this struggle. I don't know who I am as a thin person anymore. I haven't been a thin person since my 20s. I don't know who that person is. And it's scary. And so I stay overweight because I know this person. I know this struggle. This is my discomforting comfort zone.
Yes.
And that is something that I struggle with as well is I want to know that girl. I want to know that, almost 50-year-old woman who no longer battles her weight and no longer battles food and no longer views food as the enemy. But that is terrifying at the same time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Tracy. Let me tell you something about that. Let me turn this off. Let me tell you something about this. I am 63 years old. I'm 63 years old, and I feel better at 63 than I did at 53, 43, 33, and 23. I am here to tell you that the joy, the peace, the freedom, the confidence, the pride that is on the other side of this battle that you're talking about is more beautiful than anything that you can imagine, and you deserve it. And see, that's the place that we're in. I get it, because I was there for 40 years. You get used to being the way that you are. You get used to believing that this is all that there is, right? You get used to thinking, I have big bones. I write. There's a story I have in my book. Look at me, I don't have big bones. But I had these same size bones when I was 12, right?
Right.
But the thing is that this is like this. This is the best thing that I can tell you. I want you to think about a butterfly. I want you to think about a caterpillar. Once you fundamentally change what you believe about food, once you fundamentally change how you view yourself, you got to view yourself first that way, right? Once you fundamentally believe that the other side is better, and you don't even have to know exactly what the other side is, just believe that it's better. Just move to something better. Just tell yourself that it is better than where you are now. Because here's the truth. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a truth and a lie. So just tell it it's better and start moving toward that better. Start moving toward that better and stay in that better. Stay in that belief of better. Just stay there. No matter what, stay there. And it will be like the caterpillar and the butterfly. Because once you become a butterfly, I'm not worried about gaining the weight back, because I'm a butterfly. I cannot go back to being a caterpillar. I can't. My consciousness is different. My belief system is a bit different. How I move through this world is different, but you do it a little bit at a time. You have to die to your old self. You have to be willing to release everything that you feel about how you are right now that doesn't serve you, that you don't like, that you just feel like might be off. Release it. Write it down. That's why I wrote the book. Write it down and release it. When you write it down, you'll be able to release it. And then as you're moving toward this better, that you don't even know what it's going to look like, you keep moving toward the better, and you'll get there. And you're like, oh shoot, that's what that looks like. Oh, that's what that feels like. And you'll start having these new experiences, because these new experiences are replace the food. It replaces you have to be able to open yourself up to the possibility, and to open yourself up to the discomfort of moving from where you are to where you want to be. Open yourself up to that. Be okay with that discomfort. Be okay with the fight of the release. And I'll give you this quick example, because I know we're probably running short on time. Sugar addict, like I said, sugar addict, love dessert. Still love dessert, just don't eat it. But here's what happens. You go out to eat, you have a wonderful meal, right? You have a wonderful meal and you're full. And then the server, who you think is your friend, is not your friend. They come around with the dessert platter, right? And everything looks fabulous. And everybody at the table gets a dessert, right? Except for two people. There's one person who's on a diet, and they are fighting the whole time. Their knuckles are bleeding. They are gripping the table because they really want that double chocolate cake, but they're on a diet, and so they don't get it, but they're struggling. It's self-control, willpower, self-discipline, all that, fighting the entire, and they are miserable. And then there's somebody at the other end of the table that says, I'll just have some coffee. Those two people, both of them, neither of them have dessert, but one of them feels differently about that dessert platter. For the one person that just says have coffee, that dessert doesn't mean a thing. What it does mean is like, if I eat that dessert, I'm not going to be able to get in the black dress. If I eat that dessert, I'm not going to feel good. If I eat that dessert, I know it's not food. Just because you can put it in your mouth doesn't mean it's food, right? Sugar's addictive. I don't want that in my body. It's not going to serve me. And the other person is like, oh, it tastes so good, but I'm resistant, right? If you make it through that first step, you gradually change your belief about the dessert. And it is you don't have to exercise willpower or self-control or self-discipline because you don't have desire for it. People will say that to me all the time. Oh my God, I wish I had your willpower. I wish I had your self-control. I don't have any of those things. What I have is a lack of desire. If you don't want it, you don't have to fight it. And so that's the shift we make. That's the shift we make. We shift to wanting only those foods that are going to serve our bodies, that are going to serve how we want to live, how we want to look, and how we want to show up. That's the shift.
Wow. Michelle, I could talk to you forever. Wow. This conversation actually has me speechless, which is hard to do. Very hard to do. Very hard to do. But I mean, in a good way, it's just got me thinking, so much. I actually want to just end my day and go read your book. I downloaded your book ages ago, but I haven't read it yet. And now I'm just like, okay, I've got to go read that book now. Thank you. Send me your address and I will, I'll send you a copy. Oh, I'll send you a copy. Yeah, sure. I'll do that. Thank you.
And for anybody that wants to, check it out, it's www.leavinglarge.com. You can, reach out to me and I'll send you an autograph copy, or it's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, the ebook or the hardback.
Yep. And listeners, I will have all of that information in the show notes. Definitely, if this is an area of struggle for you, definitely go get the book. Get the book, get that inspiration, reach out to Michelle. We can do this. We can do this.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're going to do this. Not so much as I can, but we're going to do this. So
absolutely. Michelle,
thank you so much for coming on. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in the next show. That's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. Be sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok.